In the tropical far north of Australia, the floodplains of the South and East Alligator rivers extend over hundreds of square kilometres. Here, there are only two seasons, the wet and the dry. Even in the middle of the dry season, there's still plenty of water in the river pools or billabongs. Glossy ibis, black-winged stilts and many other wading birds gather here to take advantage of the rich food supply. There's plenty for everyone, but even so, some take to daylight robbery. Plumage is dried and cleaned with scrupulous care. The bird's ability to swim and hunt fish depends on it. Colonies of flying foxes, the great fruit bats, frequently shatter the peace of the day. This place is the domain of one of the most deadly predators known to man, the saltwater crocodile. These primeval creatures haven't changed much since the time of the dinosaurs. They live in coastal estuaries all over northern Australia, and they can also be found in New Guinea, Malaysia, southern China, and India. That crooked grin contains 66 large teeth, which are mainly used to grip the crocodile's prey before swallowing. They do this very efficiently. As an added bonus, the teeth grow continuously throughout the animal's life. As one tooth is replaced, another starts to grow underneath it. The nostrils lie on the raised tip of the snout and can be opened and closed at will. The eyes are in a commanding position, high on the head, just in front of the ears. They're protected by a special membrane, there, which shields them underwater. The eyelids are armor-plated, protecting the eyes from almost any kind of damage. Eyes, ears and nostrils are the only parts of the body which need to protrude above the water surface. The hide is thick and plated and provides an almost impenetrable armor. The legs are short and powerful. Only the toes of the hind feet are webbed. This is useful for the female when she builds her nest mound, but not really necessary for swimming because the main propelling force is the tremendously powerful tail. During the hottest part of the day, crocodiles keep cool by holding their mouths wide open. This gaping exposes the thin skin inside and allows heat to escape more quickly. They may look sluggish now, but when the need arises, they can hit the water fast. They can be masters of stealth, too. At the end of the 19th century, monster crocodiles like this were quite common. The few the Aborigines hunted made very little difference to their numbers, but after European settlement, crocodiles were slaughtered on an unprecedented scale for their skins or just as hunting trophies. This reduced the population to such a low level that by the 1970s, the government began to impose bans on crocodile hunting. Baby salters are barely 20 centimeters long. They grow quickly at first, but they take many years to grow to adult size, a couple of meters or so. This one may be 3 times as big again, probably all of 7 meters, if you could get a tape measure near enough to him. Despite their awesome reputation, saltwater crocodiles have a main diet of fish, with just an occasional small animal or bird. Having made a catch, the food is usually brought topside for swallowing. Older animals hunt larger prey. Even a water buffalo wouldn't be beyond them, let alone an unwary fisherman or two. In this landscape, it's we who are the intruders. The crocodiles belong here. They're usually far more wary of us than we are of them, and with proper precautions, the risks to man are slight. At Edward River in northern Queensland, these Australian Aborigines are running a crocodile farm. Their traditional knowledge of the animals helps them to earn a useful living from crocodile skins. These animals are 3 or 4 years old. They average about 1.5 meters long, which is ideal for the skin trade. Aborigines have always had a practical attitude towards the animals which live so closely to them, And they don't shed crocodile tears because some of them will end up as handbags or attaché cases. After all, boots and shoes come from animals too. These animals are used as breeding stock. They're too big for their skins to be useful, so they lead a semi-wild existence in nearby lagoons and turn up once a week to be fed. The saltwater crocodile isn't the only species found here. There's another one, quite unique to Australia. To find it, you have to travel upstream, well away from the brackish tidal waters where the salters live. The swimmers are quite safe. The Australian freshwater crocodile is a very different animal from the salty. It's not aggressive, it's very shy, and it will never attack a human being unless provoked. The fish chasing its tail here may be picking off external parasites. When disturbed, it tends to dive for cover. Crocodiles are cold-blooded animals and have no built-in system to control their body temperatures. Sometimes they stay underwater for too long and get cold. In that case, the only way they can warm up again is by lying in the sun. Gradually, the sun's rays penetrate the thick hide and begin to warm the muscle fibers along the whole length of its body. The main physical characteristic of the freshwater crocodile is its long, slender snout. The jaw holds even more teeth than a saltwater crocodile, and they're designed for biting rather than holding. Its aggressive display can be quite alarming. Breeding takes place in the dry season, when the rivers tend to degenerate into chains of surface pools and billabongs. The crocodiles congregate in the deeper pools, and they stay there, landlocked, until the next rains. The females lay their eggs at night, burying them in shallow pits dug into the sand around the edges of the billabongs. Many of the eggs will never get a chance to hatch because of predation. This Gould's goanna is one potential predator, but he's not alone in his search for eggs this morning. Karen Dempsey is a researcher working on an important study of freshwater crocodiles in the Northern Territory of Australia. These eggs will be hatched in a laboratory. Before removing them, the incubation temperature is carefully noted, and each egg is marked to show its alignment in the nest. One egg from each nest must be sacrificed so that Karen can find out when they were laid and so predict when they will hatch. The incubation period varies from 70 to 90 days. Research to date has shown that the sex of the baby crocodiles depends on incubation temperatures. The higher the temperature, the higher the proportion of females. Having dug up her brood in response to their calls from within the egg, the adult female has little more to do with them. After struggling free of the shell, the priority is to get into the water as fast as possible. The danger from predators is very great at this stage. In the water, the siblings stay close together, forming a crocodile creche. Their appearance coincides with the start of the rainy season. Soon, the floodwaters will flush the baby crocodiles out of their nursery billabongs and into the wider world of the river system. Now it's a race against time for some more researchers who must try and catch as many of the hatchlings as possible before the billabongs overflow. But first, they have to remove any adults. The danger from those jaws has to be neutralized, but despite appearances, she comes to no real harm, and in a few hours, she'll have her freedom once again. By nightfall, all the adults are tethered to a hitching post on the bank, and it should be safe to go back into the water. The torches pick up the eye shine of the baby crocs. The hatchlings are put into temporary containers until it's safe to assume that all present have been caught. Before being released again, they'll be weighed, measured, and individually tagged. The total catch will be compared with the number of eggs known to have been laid, and this will give an idea of the crocodile's breeding success. Only about 10 to 20% will survive until the next dry season. But now the rains have begun in earnest, and this triggers the start of another breeding season. The salted cycle is exactly opposite to the freshes. Having found a partner, male and female circle around one another in a crocodile courtship dance. Later, they'll submerge together, and turning tail to tail, copulation will proceed. Unlike the freshwater crocodile, which buries its eggs in a hole in the ground, the female salty builds a mound for her eggs. She'll lay about 50. The mound is composed of a mixture of river mud or gravel and bits of vegetation, which she scrapes together using her back feet. Prime nesting areas for salties are shoulder-high grasses and reeds on the riverbank. The females have highly developed maternal instincts, and unless you really know what you're doing, walking around in this sort of country can be exceptionally dangerous at this time of year. Eddie Holroyd does know what he's doing. He's assistant manager of the Edward River Crocodile Farm, and he's out looking for nests to restock his incubators. Now, he'll have to persuade the fiercely protective female to leave the nest. This is a dangerous exercise. She may be back, so Eddie keeps a wary eye on the water as he excavates the eggs. The evidence is that egg collecting on this controlled scale has very little effect on the number of young crocodiles emerging in the wild. Crocodiles are an essential element in the ecology of tropical Australia. Perhaps an awareness of their potential value as a natural resource will also help to ensure that they'll flourish here for many years to come. Reptiles, particularly snakes, are misunderstood animals. Most people are frightened of them. Portrayals of them vary from the personification of evil to actual worship. According to Australian Aboriginal belief, the sacred rainbow snake is the creator of all life. In fact, reptiles are vertebrate animals with a scaly covering. Their ancestors, the dinosaurs, once dominated the animal kingdom. Australia's most formidable reptile, the saltwater crocodile, is a survivor from that time. Unlike birds and mammals, reptiles are cold-blooded. As such, they rely on an external heat source, usually the sun, to maintain a constant body temperature. Many of them hibernate in winter when there's insufficient warmth. Even at other times of the year, many reptiles can be seen basking in the morning sun. Once adequate heat has been absorbed, they can move off and become active. This blue-tongued skink has been surprised on an overcast day and is noticeably sluggish. Another one, on a sunny day, is much quicker. Whilst almost all reptiles are at home in water, they breathe air, and they don't undergo a metamorphosis as frogs and other amphibians do. There's no tadpole stage, as it were. Despite this, herpetology, the branch of science covering reptiles, also covers the amphibians. In all, there are more than 650 species of herpetofauna living in Australia. Covering almost every habitat, including the sea, they include some of the world's strangest, most colourful, most venomous, largest, and smallest. Frogs are restricted by being totally reliant on water. Although they have lungs as adults, all amphibians also need to breathe through their skins. A frog's skin is extremely thin, but for oxygen to pass through it, it must be kept moist. Species that live up in trees can only do this in habitats like a rainforest, where the humidity is high. The characteristic scales of the reptiles prevent them from drying out on land. Consequently, they can manage in extremely arid conditions. Despite this, many reptiles continue to exploit an aquatic environment. While some reptiles give birth to live young, others, like the turtles, lay eggs. Turtles are really much more at home in the water. The desperate struggle of the newly born turtle to reach the water is similar to the critical first hours of the baby crocodile. Despite their reputation as ruthless predators in adult life, newly born reptiles are predated extensively by birds and mammals and other reptiles. Once fully grown, the tables are reversed. This king skink is enjoying a gull's egg. There still can be danger, however, and many lizards are equipped with a remarkable defense mechanism. When seriously threatened, they can drop a section of their tail as a distraction. Later, the last segment will be at least partially regenerated. While some lizards are virtually legless and are sometimes mistaken for snakes, most lizards use speed as a means of escape. Others have developed threatening display postures. One of the most spectacular is the frilled lizard. Here, it's being threatened by a potential predator. It displays its frill to appear much larger than it really is, while swaying and hissing as menacingly as it can. It can also strike out quite viciously. If all else fails, it will resort to running away on its hind legs. This may appear comical, but it allows the lizard to easily outdistance the relatively slow-moving snake family. Snakes also adopt defensive warning postures. The senses of snakes and lizards are vital to both defense and feeding, but in different ways. The leisurely extrusion of the lizard's long tongue contrasts with the rapid movements of the snake. The tongue, which is not poisonous, is detecting minute quantities of airborne chemicals. When the tongue is retracted, these will be tested in a special organ in the mouth. It's believed that a snake can switch this process on and off. When feeding, it can taste its prey. At other times, it will go straight past a possible meal. While lizards have reasonable hearing and clearly visible ears, snakes do not have external ears, and they're completely deaf. They are, however, sensitive to vibrations on the ground, which are transmitted through the body. Some snakes, like this worm snake, are blind. Eyesight represents another major difference between lizards and snakes. A lizard's eyesight is probably its most important sense. The eyes are protected by an eyelid. In most species, this is movable. Snakes don't have eyelids. The result is a rather beady stare that may appear slightly menacing. In fact, a snake's eyesight is extremely poor. This faculty is further impaired when a snake is shedding its skin. Snakes have a scale over the eye, almost like a contact lens, and in the initial stages of shedding, this becomes opaque and the vision cloudy. The snake seeks out objects to rub against to assist in peeling off the old skin. Reduced vision may explain why this tiger snake has found itself on such an unsuitable terrain. Loose surfaces, such as sand, can greatly reduce mobility. The basic process involved is an interaction between the scales on the underside, the muscles of the body, and the surface over which the animal is moving. Differing species exhibit varying skills. The jerky movements of the whip snake contrast with the brown tree snake, which appears to glide effortlessly through the branches. The carpet python uses sheer muscle power in the same situation, not always successfully. Once away from the vertical, the coils and loops of the body enable the python to achieve feats which appear to defy the law of gravity. Snakes are equally at home in the water. The swimming action is produced almost entirely by movement of the lateral muscles. The snake remains buoyant as a result of air held in the elongated lungs. But snakes can dive, and the highly venomous Australian sea snakes are totally aquatic. Only an occasional visit to the surface is necessary for breathing. They are the least shy of all reptiles, but fortunately are rarely capable of inflicting a bite. So well adapted to moving in differing environments, reptiles are often successful at camouflage or concealment. The king of camouflage is probably the leaf-tailed gecko. Almost impossible to spot. Even the pupils of the eyes match the background to help render it invisible. Some snakes have similar colorations. The pupil of this python is designed for nocturnal vision. The black and white stripes of the bandy snake would seem very conspicuous, but after spending the day under leaves, it becomes active by night, and the bands help to break up its outline, making it difficult to see as it stalks its prey. One of the most successful exponents of camouflage is the Australian death adder, a highly poisonous snake. The death adder is equipped with an unusually cunning device. The extreme end of the tail is shaped and colored to look like a caterpillar. Carefully burying itself under some leaves, the snake settles down to wait. Small mammals and birds are particularly attracted to the apparently tempting morsel. Once they start towards it, the result is rapid and unavoidable. By contrast, most lizards are highly opportunistic feeders. Feeding on small, live prey, they catch them by speed. The meal is eaten whole, and a powerful digestive system takes care of the rest. Others, on the other hand, are very careful feeders, spitting out the unwanted portions. Non-venomous snakes, like this black-headed python, kill by constriction. The prey is suffocated, not crushed, as many people used to believe. The brown tree snake, although it's venomous, may also resort to constriction, although in this case the highly protective parents of these willy wagtail chicks succeeded in driving the intruder away. Australia has a high percentage of extremely toxic venomous snakes. In fact, it not only has the largest proportion of poisonous snakes, but it also harbours 9 out of the 10 most venomous snakes in the world. This one is believed to be the most venomous snake in the world. It's the small-scaled snake, or western taipan, very rare and only rediscovered in 1975. One dose of its venom is enough to kill about 250,000 mice. Why the Australian snake should be so venomous is not really known. An answer may be found watching this snake, the taipan, at work. Only slightly less venomous than its cousin, the small-scale snake, it's Australia's largest and most dangerous. Measuring up to 3.5 meters, it differs from many snakes in its method of killing prey. Unlike some, such as the death adder, which we saw earlier, the taipan strikes very quickly and then lets go of its prey, sitting back, confident of the result. It seems to realize that death will be almost immediate. What follows is typical of all snakes. The jaws are dislocated to allow the prey into what appears to be an impossibly small head and mouth. Gradually working the mouth around the meal, the seemingly impossible is accomplished. After feeding, despite popular belief, snakes will often drink. The extreme toxicity of Australia's snakes has led to extensive research to produce suitable antivenines. The first problem, of course, is to catch the snakes. This is a western tiger snake, 100 times as venomous as the most poisonous snake in North America, and great care must be taken. The work of men like Gane Doyle, seen here milking the venom of the dugite and other of Australia's most poisonous snakes, has greatly reduced the number of human fatalities caused by snakebite in Australia. In consequence, it's gradually leading to an increasing understanding and appreciation of the fascinating variety that makes up Australia's reptile population.